Welcome to the episode 28 of Take UTV 28. Today we're going to be talking about electric aviation. I've just sat down with somebody who flew in a first British registered and British owned electric airplane in the UK, and we just went through all the sort of your typical questions. Enjoy. By the way, this was recorded at an active airfield outdoors, so there's wind noise and flying overhead aircraft. Enjoy. We're at Popham Airfield, and you flew, or your colleague flew, an electric aircraft in here.
Yeah, first electric type certified in the world. It's been certified, it's called Velis Electra. It's been certified by EASA June last year, and CA picked it up February this year.
So it's for those who don't know, it's very hard sometimes to get the Gulf or British.
It's a different game. Yeah,
British certification. So most people fly in the UK aircraft that are hard to certify on the American registry.
Correct.
But this one's actually on the Gulf registry.
It's on the Gulf registry. It's now type certified, so it's not just a permit to fly or experimental.
Yeah.
It's a serial production. And basically here at Popham, which is the every year Microlight and Light Aircraft exhibition, it's the first public display of the first British registered fully electric aircraft. We're going first everywhere. And actually flying here was the first in history of Britain fully electric point-to-point flight.
So that's like history in the making.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I don't see press. Like, why are they not running and picking?
You know what? I always was quite surprised with this. Is a show for old friends.
Yes.
This is not a show for press, but. Soon after the certification, before we started test flying, Financial Times called and said, we want the coverage. And the amount of advertising and amount of attention from press, we can't complain. It's a lot. That's
good. I think I read the Financial Times article, which is why I thought I'll reach out to you, because this is the electric. I'm running an electric vehicle electrification podcast, for ages now. But I've been flying aircraft, and I had a private pilot's license for quite a few years now. And I've done, 280, 300 hours behind as a P1, as a pilot in command. So to me, there's a very nice. I was always looking forward to the time when I could actually see an aircraft that is electric on the British soil, and isn't just an experimental.
Yes, that's a big thing.
In a barn.
Yeah, that's a big thing. No, it's serial produced, and we've got yet not an amazing endurance, but enough for a flying school to enjoy. It's 1 hour flight, and it's 1 hour fast charge. It's a circuit trainer. It's not yet a cruiser, due to two reasons. First one is endurance. And the second one, the charging infrastructure, we're only developing it.
Yeah.
We're trying to work out with various investors and grants to deploy as many chargers as possible in the next 12 months to make the country at least flyable from point to point in electric aircraft. But it's such an early development stage, It's like, the electric cars. First electric car, how many miles?
Probably 30, 40.
Yeah. And still, it was still a marketable product.
Yeah. That was like well over 10 years ago, but people were still buying it because, it's still useful.
Yeah. And now what Tesla said, 450?
Yeah.
So we expect quite a rapid development in the aviation as well.
So an electric car just went past. I'm just joking.
Gold buggy.
So can we go back to the start? So can you introduce yourself and who you guys are, so people know?
Yes. So my name is Sergey. I'm the founder and the director at the company called Flyabout Aviation. That's an official exclusive distributor for Pipistrel in this country.
Okay.
So we haven't started from this electric aircraft. We've been with Pipistrel for 12 years now, and we were selling conventional aircraft in both microlight and type classes, so 472 kilos and 600 kilos. and they are mostly trainers. But having said that, the Pipistrel Virus SW121 is a 5 hours endurance at 137 knots. So it's a nice cruiser as well as a trainer. No,
most people cruise in this country about 105 miles. Knots.
Yeah. 137. You will feel the difference.
Yes. Yeah. It does make a difference. Yes.
Yeah. They are one of the safest aircraft as well, because majority of the models all of them are carbon fiber, which is a different strength factor.
Yeah, much stronger and lighter.
Much stronger, much lighter, and more mainstream conventional models will have a ballistic recovery system. So it's a parachute which picks up the whole plane.
Yeah. So just for people who don't know, you're trained to have a hand on a lever that's very close to the roof, and if something goes wrong, you're told just to pull it out because insurance is going to cover you.
Yes, and also we had an accident, not many of them, but an accident when the pilot deployed the parachute. The aircraft actually landed on the ground in the mountain region. He stepped out, sat on a tree trunk and waited for the helicopter to pick him up. So everything went pretty safe. I thought, oh God, not a crash. But then I thought, well, actually, that's a good advertising for the recovery system.
In modern times, it's like putting airbags in the car.
Yeah, correct.
It's a similar kind of a safety mechanism. So obviously Pipistrel, they're based in Slovenia, right? The factories in Slovenia.
Correct. Yeah.
And they've decided to market or develop an electric aircraft primarily for training at the moment because of the endurance. But do you know if they have anything else exciting in the works?
Yes, I do. There is a development of a much longer endurance aircraft on the way. We think it's about 2 years. This will be much longer battery life and range and everything. And also there is a development of a 19-seater aircraft, which I think there will be some information on Pipistrel websites. It's still sort of prototype, before prototype.
Yeah. Aircraft take ages years to develop.
Yeah, but it's all exciting. The advantage we've got with Pipistrel is that the factory put all on quick certification of a 2-seater trainer.
Okay.
Since 1 year it was certified, no competitors shown anything even closer to that. There's lots of projects, there's lots of capitalization, there's lots of money invested into that area, but a year later we're still the only type certified aircraft, fully electric.
And this aircraft is also, not model, but they've also made previously a Microlight aircraft.
Yes.
Which, so just sort of for tech buffs, because I don't know. So this aircraft has an endurance of an hour flight, but that means that you can probably fly for much longer, but you need 15 minutes on either side.
Yes.
Just to safely land, and safety is completely different when it comes to aviation.
Absolutely.
To like automotive, it's a different ballpark. And it's a 20-something kilowatt-hour battery.
20 kilowatt-hour battery. The output for the engine is around 60 kilowatt at maximum for takeoff, and about 50 kilowatt for continuous flight.
Okay.
You're right that you need some time before and after, but you will need 10 minutes on conventional aircraft to bring your engine up to temperature.
Yes.
Because you can't take off at 5,000 RPM
you have
on
to
a
do
cold
the
engine.
Check and,
however, here, nothing.
You just step in.
Jump in, master on, off you go flying.
Yeah, so again, sorry, because I want to fill the gap. So if somebody doesn't know, when you fly a little airplane, you sit in it, you do loads of pre-flight checks, and you turn the engine on after pumping the fuels and doing all sorts of other things, and then you sit there until the temperature goes up to a certain level. You taxi to a certain point before you take off, and you do your pre-flight checks and the engine checks. So you basically rev it up all the way, leave it for a few seconds, see whatever T's and P's are right and everything. Yep. Then you put it back to idle to kind of make sure that it doesn't
stop at
that point. Yep. Wait a little bit, then put it back to about 1600 RPM, and then you tell the tower, you're ready for takeoff, right?
Whereas here, you do your pre-flight checks.
Of course.
Then you switch the engine, and the engine monitoring system will immediately tell you something wrong.
Yeah.
You don't need to do engine checks.
Yes. Yeah.
Because there's nothing. It's a sealed unit. It's a brushless motor.
It's quite actually small. It's only a couple of inches wide.
Yeah. It's fantastically small for 75 horsepower output.
Yes.
And everything else about flying, it's pretty much the same, apart from maybe there's two funny things and one important thing. So one important thing is it climbs, because you try and save the battery, you nurse the battery, you will climb shallower.
Okay.
So you will kind of what in aviation called a cruise climb, rather than an immediate climb. And the two interesting things is when you idle the throttle, the conventional aircraft will keep rotating because idle is still rotating the engine. Here the prop stops.
Okay, so if you put it into idle, it
just stops.
Oh, does it windmill?
In flight it does.
Okay.
But on the ground it doesn't.
Yeah, because this is the other sort of misconception is people think if the engine in a conventional aircraft stops, the propeller
stops rotating.
Will stop, but it won't. It will actually windmill on its own because you're still going through the air.
Yeah.
So you're saying it will just basically windmill on its own, but I know that the Microlight version had, at least the early prototypes that I've heard about, it did have regen on landing, but I've heard that this one doesn't do that.
No, we were thinking about it, and it was kind of not implemented at the last stages because the additional 5 minutes of charge does not worth the exercise of putting another aggregate in.
Okay, yeah.
What we're hoping for is the batteries will develop faster, so you don't need the residual charge.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense, especially for...
It's a choice. It's a question of choice.
Yeah, especially for training. You know, if you're doing loads of circuits, that might, like you say, might save you 5 minutes, but you don't go... When you do circuits, you go to about 1,000 feet and then you land.
Yeah.
You touch and go. You basically land and immediately pull the full power and take off again.
Yeah, that's true.
And you do that in a circle.
Yeah, that's true.
So have you had any so let me back up. So when I was doing the training, I've heard from loads of people running schools at the time that the costs are very expensive of running the aircraft, and people stopped flying as much because they no longer can
afford it.
Pay 150 plus per hour. Presumably this would be perfect because I'm sure it's way cheaper to operate the aircraft.
Well, we can't unfortunately dictate at what price to sell the hour.
Yeah.
It's for the school to decide.
Of course.
But I give you a very quick run through. A conventional Cessna or Piper aircraft flying on aviation fuel will cost you minimum 75 pounds per hour on petrol only.
Yeah.
This is exclusive of instructor and engine fund, insurance, everything. 1 hour on this aircraft is £2. That's the cost of the electricity per 1 hour.
Yeah, well, it's a 20 kilowatt hour battery, so
Yeah.
If you multiply it even by 15p, you get ridiculously small figures.
So it will make it immediately more profitable for the school. We are big fans of democratization of aviation, so make more people to get into it, make it more affordable and everything. So what we hope that competition will take place and the schools will reduce prices because they will make the same margin.
Yes, of course they'll if they can charge.
But if they reduce prices, we probably can bring more people into learning to fly, especially more young people learning to fly.
Yes, yeah.
Because the crowd here is mostly people who are retired, bought the aircraft, and enjoying the time flying it as a retirement project. What we need is the young people to be able to go into aviation and fly these future machines, like the one we've got here.
Yeah, I have to say, every time I turn up at any aviation event, it's usually mostly older white men, just
which is great.
Well, I mean, it's
also
fine,
the biggest hype of this hobby was a post-war light aircraft. You build it in your shed and then you fly it.
Yes,
that's the sort of this tradition continues, which is fine. But I've never seen so many curious faces as of this morning, looking at the electric motor and high voltage cables, where supposed to be an engine with carburetors and spark plugs.
Yeah, it looks rather silly, but then again, people who are familiar with electric cars, they know that the engine is, or the motor is so small, it's ridiculous. It's the battery pack that takes the more space.
Yeah.
So the aircraft has 1 hour endurance. So say if I was a school. Schools are quite often, booked back to back, so they would need at least probably 2 because they have to wait for
2 or 3. Yeah, we were hoping that the plug-and-play system for the batteries will be in place, but then the safety factor took over. Again, if you drop a lithium-ion battery on a tarmac, it probably will be more damage than just to have fixed battery and recharge them.
Yeah,
recharge is 1 hour. When I was learning to fly, 1 hour. It's a maximum I could bear. Otherwise, after 1 hour, there is a theory that you stop learning. You're still enjoying it, but your mental capacity, because we're not designed to fly. We don't have wings.
No.
We're not designed to move in this 3-dimensional space. So after 1 hour, I prefer to ask my instructor to land, have a cup of tea, have a debrief. By the end of that debrief, your aircraft is ready to fly.
Yeah.
And you don't need anybody, like, for example, with refueling, it's a long process because you're pouring fuel into the aircraft. And with a lot of microlight schools, you jerry canning.
Yes.
You're not just nozzle it in from the petrol station. Where here, you switch one button, you put the round plug in, and the charger talks to the battery. It doesn't involve you. It doesn't ask your advice. Yeah. It knows what it's doing.
Yeah, just plug and play, basically.
It knows the state of health of the battery. It knows how much it charged. It knows how to charge fast and then slower and then whatever. It's all automatic process.
Yeah. I'm sure there's a quite sophisticated battery management system that is a bit different than in your regular car. Because when you climbing up to a couple thousand feet, the temperatures change very quickly. The pressure changes.
Yes.
I'm sure it has to take account for it. And as far as I could tell, there's 2 batteries. One is just behind the what used to be a firewall in the conventional aircraft, because things could go
in
up
the front cowling.
Yeah. But I'm sure there is no firewall as such. And then there's one in the back behind the passengers, or behind the pilot and the passenger, because it's a 2-seater.
Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong, it's just a DC charger. So
Yes.
So you can't just plug it in using a 3-pin socket at your home.
No, you will have to have 3-phase supply.
Yeah. So I'm sure it's technically possible, but
you can invert and convert, but from a conventional 1-phase, say 32 amp supply, it will be about 12 hours to charge the plane for 1 hour of flight.
Yeah, but if I was to buy this aircraft for myself and just fly it from my own farm, which there's so many people in the UK doing that.
Yeah.
I would love the ability just to leave it in a hangar, but charge slowly overnight and then come back next day and just take it off.
Take it off for a flight. Yeah, it does work.
But I'm sure that's not Pipistrel's main market. So
the market for us is flying schools.
Yeah.
It's flying schools, and we're working on the program to deploy a few aircraft for rental basis, because school would hardly afford. Aircraft is £150,000. That's before tax.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's an expensive thing. But it's what you get for it. You've got this fantastic kit at £2 an hour flying, very low maintenance and stuff like this. But you will need capital resources to buy a fleet. So we're working on that and trying to offer rent, which will make it far more affordable. Again, speaking of democratization and pulling our product on the market.
Yeah, the aircraft are... if you think €180,000 is expensive, private little aircraft are way more expensive than that.
Yeah.
So this is actually not that expensive.
There is a choice to keep buying second hand, and we all learned on it. Something definitely not working in every flight. Something is out or upside down. Safety is a question, because that's far safer to fly than the new one, let alone the electric. But it's a very early stage. So anything we talk, it's rather funny, because people ask me, why is that such a small endurance? I said, look, guys, it's take it or leave it exercise. This is the only one certified aircraft on the market. If you want to try and be the first one who's kind of teaching to fly without polluting the air and without damaging the atmosphere, this is it.
And never mind that. It's just the pleasure of flying. It's just like with electric cars. You get much more you get what in Tesla world it's called Tesla grin, but it's not, when people get in behind the steering wheel of a Tesla and press the accelerator and they smile because it's just pure power. It's probably the same thing. I've never flown it, obviously, so I can't say, but I'm sure you can attest to the fact that it's much more enjoyable because you can just hear the wind, and you don't have to, it's a different experience. You don't get this the secondary, vibration noise.
There's no vibration whatsoever.
I'll be happy to fly
There's actually nothing to vibrate because the motor is brushless. It's actually suspended in the air by magnets.
Okay.
Oh
yeah, true. Yeah.
And there's only 2 bearings which are holding the shaft in place.
Yeah.
That's it. It's only 2 aggregates which connect the motor to the body of the aircraft.
So, speaking of maintenance, because obviously when you're running a school, quite a lot of schools actually have their own maintenance facility because they, it costs so much to maintain a regular aircraft. So, just to those who don't know, you get 1,000 hour checks on the regular aircraft, and then every so often you have to take the engine apart, rebuild it essentially.
Well, first of all, you've got in a school type certified aircraft every 50 hours.
Okay.
You do your maintenance.
Yeah.
And that involves draining the oil, changing the spark plugs, changing the filters, putting them back in place, lock wiring them, and everything else. There's nothing like this here.
Okay.
You can't. There's no spark plugs.
Yeah.
You can't change anything.
Anyway, but the bottom line is, it's very expensive to, even if you bought a second-hand Cessna 152.
It's very expensive to run
for £15,000.
Yeah.
And you're going to spend £15,000 every couple of years just to maintain it.
Yeah.
Never mind flying it. So in 10 years of time that most people own an aircraft, they paid 100,000 probably just to enjoy it. So how does it what are the figures for this sort of aircraft, do you think?
Well, there was not a single electric aircraft which went through the maintenance program in the UK yet.
So we don't know.
We don't know. But what we expect is to be rather cheap, probably in the region of 1,500 a year for the entire year cycle of maintenance, because there is no 50 hours checks. There's 100 hours checks, but that check is just putting a SCART connection into a little diagnostic port in the cockpit saying diagnostics, and just looking at your laptop and seeing if all elements are behaving.
Yeah, just making sure that all the cells in the battery are okay and all the logs from charging, discharging. Yeah,
absolutely. And only service function you can perform on that aircraft is keep your antifreeze level up. Everything else is sealed.
Yeah, so
you can't touch the battery. You can't pour any water or any acid in the batteries. It just doesn't work.
So the batteries are cooled, obviously, because they have to be warmed up and cooled.
Yeah, they're liquid cooled. Hence comes the antifreeze. Hence comes the pump which rotates the liquid around the batteries, the inverter, and the motor, because everything is working in a very different temperature ranges.
So if I was a flying school and was interested in having one of these, who should I talk to? What are the sort of the how would you convince even students to fly on these instead of the conventional aircraft, or is the idea that to do the initial training where you learn to actually land and take off before you go away in this aircraft, and then you move on to combustion, or can you probably presume you can't do the full training on this because you can't do
cross country. You will have to still, for a couple of years, you'll have to use the combustion engine, unless the flying infrastructure will allow us to stop on the way and recharge. No, at the moment it's a circuit trainer.
Okay.
I don't think there's a lot of convincing required. Everybody who ever seen this aircraft is completely amazed. And the moment we take it to flying schools, we notice that the level of awareness of contemporary young people about the whole eco, net zero and stuff is quite massive.
Yeah.
Because nobody yet brought an electric aircraft to the market, so we can't, again, it's another thing, we can't tell what that would be, what traction it will receive. But if we meet again, well, say next POPAM, or maybe even earlier, I will be able to tell you how it's going on with the traction with the flying schools.
I'd be very interested because I've stopped flying recently for family reasons. But the last time I flew an aircraft was last year because I was due to renew my PPL or my single engine propeller certification, or not certification, whatever it's called. And I just found it very sort of, and I don't know, it didn't annoy me. I just found it foreign, so to speak, sitting behind something that vibrates and makes so much noise. And it will take getting used to. So I'm looking forward actually to be able to fly an electric.
Brilliant! We'll take you up. Don't worry about it.
I'm happy to go up anytime. Like I'm happy to pay for it and just go.
There is we've got a website which on the card I gave you.
Yes.
It's www.NEBOair.co.uk. NEBO is NEBO. And you can leave us your details, or any of your listener can leave us your details, and we'll call back when your slot is ready and take you up.
Is that Nebo like sky in Russian?
Yeah, I know you will know.
I do speak Russian a little bit. Well, I'm not gonna embarrass myself.
No, it is for the sky, and when we developed that, it's the same in Slovene, where they made.
Yeah.
But when we developed it, I thought, how many people know what Uber is? Some do probably, but not everybody who takes Uber know what Uber is. So I thought Nebo will do.
That's it's short.
Short.
It makes sense.
Yes, it sounds nice.
It sounds nice in English.
Yeah.
Why not? Yeah, it sounds good.
Yeah, the Russian roots everywhere.
So you're if anyone wanted to actually have a go, even look at it, you're based in Suffolk, but
we have two bases. We're based in Suffolk, but our base where the present Velis is living now is Demons Hall. It's an airfield near Upminster.
Yeah, it's
East London, basically.
Yeah, if you go over the Dartford crossing, it's just on your left.
Yeah, it's on your left.
When you fly over Dartford crossing in a conventional aircraft, you look down and there's a little airstrip there.
Yeah, it's a very, very easy to commute to. It's a 20 minutes train and 5 minutes in a cab.
Yeah, there's a surprising amount of around London, because it always surprised me when I moved back to London from Belfast how many airfields there are outside of London.
Yeah,
just within a train or even a tube journey.
Yeah. Especially without much support from anything but the club members.
Yes,
that's still impressive.
Yeah, and they're chock full of aircraft that local people just want to fly.
Yeah.
So
absolutely. Yeah, another thing you might be interested, or your listeners might be interested in. You wouldn't believe it, but the most expensive exercise in that whole electric idea is insurance, because
it's a new
statistics.
Thing. Yeah,
it's a new thing. So we had to buy a really big bullet of £10,000.
Wow.
For our insurance policy, and this is not even training insurance. It's just a demo flights.
For comparison, last time I flew in a group in the regular PA-28 180 aircraft, which is a 4-seater, can do about 4 hours on a single charge, quote unquote. Mm-hmm. I think we paid about £3,000 for insurance, and that's for a group of 8 people.
Yeah, that's a syndicate, typical syndicate pleasure and private flight.
Yes.
Your school insurance will probably be double of that. So our insurance is triple of that.
Oh wow.
However, we think that because of the safety factor of that aircraft and the whole eco development, it will go down.
Yeah.
It will go down, which again will hopefully make the flying cheaper. They just need a traction and safety record.
Yeah. It's funny how that compares to the electric cars have been in the past very expensive to insure, because again insurers had no idea. Because all they care about is the capital cost of a damage, in case one occurs. And they don't care what type of the thing is.
No, for them it doesn't exist like an item.
Yeah,
it exists like a figure in the chart.
Exactly. Any insurance company is happy to take money off you to insure anything.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just the cost.
It's just a statistic.
Yes.
Statistical thing.
The other thing, like before we the wind's picking up and we're just sitting outside of tent. But the and you can hear the aircraft flying, so we're at an airfield.
There's a lot going on here.
Yeah. So the Popham is a very big airfield, and it's lucky because it's pretty far away from any major development, so there's not too many houses. But many airfields are not as lucky, and they quite often get noise complaints from the local citizens.
Big thing.
And it's a massive problem. You'd think that if you buy a house in an area where there's an airfield, you would know that there's an airfield in there, and therefore you wouldn't object to the noise that was there before you moved in.
Yeah.
But quite surprisingly, people in this country and many other countries are happy to complain about something that they've missed basically when they were looking for the house. And quite often these are airfields from like 1940 or even the First World War that've been around for ages, and somehow they have to shut down because local people are complaining too much. It's usually one or two people, but so how does that? Because we're at an airfield, we're hearing loads of people taking off and landing, and I'm far away from the main sort of landing area, so this isn't even the proper noise. How does this compare to the conventional engine if you flew an electric one? Is it much quieter? Obviously, there is still noise, presumably.
There's still noise, which is not the noise of the engine.
Yeah.
We can go back to the aircraft. You can keep recording, and I will spin the prop for you so that the listeners can hear the actual sound for electric aircraft. However, the majority of the noise is produced by the prop striking through the air.
Yeah.
Which is the biggest noise is when you go from stationary to about 30 knots. Then the noise dies down.
Okay.
I would say you can still hear it, but it's a different noise. It's not a roaring noise of a combustion engine, and it's about 3 times less. So it will bring enormous advantage to the airfields which are subject to that noise pollution complaints and the whole thing with noise. Pipistrels are, all of them, the whole line of them, are built on glider concept. It's a big wings, it's 1:18 glide ratio, so you can glide forever.
Yeah.
You almost always landing the pipistrel aircraft gliding in, which is a good practice.
It is.
It's fantastic. Military pilots are trained to glide in because they constantly think, if the engine goes, they have to safely kind of bring it down, which is producing no noise at all. When the combustion engine rotating on landing, you still can hear it because it's idling.
Yeah.
Here it's just stationary stop. I mean, the prop will rotate, but there's no noise produced by anything.
I mean,
so it's basically big white bird silently goes into land.
Yeah.
So that's the way it looks.
Okay. I mean,
sounds.
Developing an aircraft based on a much more efficient platform in the first place makes so much sense.
Yeah.
The aircraft that I flew, I don't know what is the gliding ratio of a PA-28, but it's
about 1:8.
It feels like a brick sometimes.
It's a good trainer aircraft. It wants to land.
Yes.
Where pipistrel doesn't want to land. It wants to fly.
Okay.
And continue flying, which is an interesting thing for learning to fly, because if you want no hustle, you'll be flying something heavy and which flies like a brick because it will land nicely. But you just need to adapt to that different concept.
Yeah. Okay.
I can land mine on a 450 meter farm strip where I live, and I usually need a half of it.
That's not bad.
200 meters. You need to work precisely on that landing, but it's achievable.
I think I can land the PA-28 on about 250 meters if I do a short field landing.
Yes.
But that's a steep approach, and then you basically...
Steep approach, using ground effect.
Yeah.
And pipistrel has air brakes.
Okay.
So deploy air brakes, kill the lift. Yeah.
Bonus question: does it beta?
Ease off.
Can you reverse the propeller?
No. I wish we could.
That's a military term, beta.
Beta, I didn't know that. No, you can't do reverse thrust. Could be on the bigger machines. You know why Cessna Caravan is still the most popular aircraft in Africa?
No.
Because of the reverse thrust.
Okay.
On a turbo Caravan, you can reverse thrust, so you can stop on a very small runway.
No, I didn't know that.
Not even it flies from anything virtually.
Yes.
From crop to sand.
And you can lift quite a lot in it. It has it's the aircraft that has like an underbelly compartment that you can put loads of things in.
That's it. So, but because we are in a different class, we're not developing a transporter, we're developing, in this particular model, there is a development of a passenger carrier, but that's not a passenger carrier. That's a trainer.
Yeah.
as a trainer to become cruiser.
Yeah, and obviously, I'm going to close down because I don't want to take up too much of your time. And probably we'll have to bring up the chairs again. Yeah. We borrow the chairs from somebody in the barn. But the because this is developed mostly for training initially, when you're flying circuits, you're always close. If in case anything goes wrong, the battery completely seizes. Like you say, it glides very well, and because you're next to the airstrip,
yes,
you can just turn it around. And when you're learning to fly, you're always told, or you always, at any point, the instructor can pull the throttle and tell you what you're going to do now.
Yeah.
You have to land it, either in the field or on
and it's one of the biggest exercises, you remember, engine failure, what's that called? PTF?
Engine failure on takeoff. ETFO.
Well, that's one, PTFL, yeah. And then another one is, you pretend you lost the engine and you have to calculate your glide slope into the airfield.
Yeah, so, it's... Hopefully there's going to be more of them, and I'm looking forward to seeing one at local airfields, which to me would be, your airfield where you guys are based near London, it's very close, but the other one that's closest to me is Redhill.
Redhill, yes. This is where when we flew to here, Redhill was our pit stop.
Okay.
Oh, PFL, I remember that now. Practice Force Landing.
Oh, yes, that's the one that,
it was a long time ago.
I had to do it a couple of months ago when I was doing my my PPL certification.
Revalidation.
The revalidation, yeah. So, I should remember PFL.
Yeah, PFL.
But basically, you're just flying along in the countryside or whatever, and the instructor's like, the engine's failed. What are you going to do?
Yeah, but we all do. We flew here for 2 hours from Suffolk, and halfway in, I said to my co-pilot, I said, so which field? She said, what do you mean? I said, which field will you pick up? And you start thinking, okay, where's the wind coming from? Right, okay, and then...
Yeah,
it's an interesting thing about aviation. Some people think that the pilots always live in that negative sort of thinking about catastrophe or emergency. But you get used to it.
Yes. Yeah.
Again, people who are not designed to fly.
It's a safety conscious mind.
Safety conscious mind.
Yeah. No, I was told that from the start when I started flying in Newton Ards near Belfast. I had an older English gentleman who used to be in RAF, and he would do. He would show me things. If I did something wrong on the takeoff or landing, we would go up to 5,000 feet, and he would be like, "If you do this, this is what could happen."
Yeah.
And I've spun. Let's just put it this way: I've spun down, seeing the ground getting closer to me way too many times because he was trying to show me, if you lose flaps too quickly on the go around, this is what's going to happen.
Yeah.
If you dip the wing too much, this is what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And, I know way too well. But anyway, thank you very much for your time, and I'm looking forward to actually being able to have a go in it. And
yes, you're welcome to come again. Visit the website, leave your request, and we'll call you back.
Okay. Is it? Do you have to be a pilot to try it, or can you just do it as a passenger?
No, as a passenger.
Great. Anyway, I'll leave all the descriptions and stuff in the description down below. All right. Thank you very much.
Great talking to you.
Well, that's it for the episode 28. That was a short one this time. I'm sure some of you will appreciate that. Thanks again for some time today, and thank you to Sergey for letting me to speak to him about the airplane. It truly does not look any different from the outside to the regular ice airplane, as you would call it, or piston airplane. As always, thank you to my patrons. If you want to chip in and let me lose less money on this podcast, just search for Take It EV on patreon.com, or just go to takeitev.transistor.fm. The links are in the description below, and just chip in. Go to Twitter @takeitev to say hi, and to follow me. I do tweet quite a lot, and we have a quite lovely people. Unlike the regular Twitter, we're lovely people. So come and say hi. And if you're hearing this at Fully Charged Live or Fully Charged Outdoors, then come and say hi. If you see me around, I'll be around with the logo on the hoodie. Otherwise, see you on Twitter and so on. And once again, thank you for listening.